came to me and asked me about playing, and I just got involved from there. And then at age 12, I started directing the youth and music ministry. So I just want to go over some experiences and give you some tips and tricks when you're leading in the children's music ministry. The first thing that you have to make sure you have is personal investment. Even if you think it's just a choir or a music ministry, it is a ministry. You're working with these kids, you're using music as a way to connect to them, and you're teaching them how to worship, you're teaching them how to praise. So make sure that you're personally invested, and make sure that you're always in line with what God wants you to do. Make sure you stay prayed up, because it's important when you're choosing songs and you're picking material to go beyond just, we think of just Sunday school songs, and that's great. The kids need to know basics and foundation, but really challenge them, challenge yourself, because it is a ministry. And make sure that you always have someone else lined up behind you. So Brother James Wayne was talking about this earlier, is making sure that you have somebody that's going to come up behind you, because a good leader always has somebody behind you. So right now, there's a little girl named Nalani in our church. She's 11 years old, and she plays the piano. Her brother Noah plays the drums and guitar, and we're training them. She just played second piano for the first time for our choir, the kids' choir, last Sunday when they sang. So just training them, teaching them how to get involved. Don't let them just stay where they're at, making sure that they're continuing on. So the first thing you want to do when you're teaching is motivate the kids. So we always ask the kids, what are we doing when we're singing? What are you doing? And they always know the answer is worship. They know that what they're doing isn't just singing and standing up there looking cute for their parents, looking cute for everybody else. They know that they're worshiping. They're learning how to worship. They're learning how to praise. And have fun with them. So that was something that I had to learn how to do. I'm very structured and organized, and I like to keep things in a certain way. But when you're working with kids, you have to be fun, you have to be spontaneous, because the kids aren't going to stay in a certain order. So when you're practicing, have fun with them. My dad has a really good job. My dad is the superintendent, Brother Keith. And he helps out, and we just joke around, have fun with them in between when we're practicing songs and all that. Set the standard, because the kids will only feed off of your energy. So whatever amount of energy that you have, they're either going to come up right behind it or match it. They'll never give more than what you give. So make sure that you keep your energy, keep the atmosphere going positive, and give positive reinforcement. So when you're teaching, they like to hear, oh, good job, you did great, or just different things like that. Keep it upbeat. You want to really keep the atmosphere upbeat. And it goes along with your personal investment, is having passion for the music ministry and forgiving them and continuing on to love them beyond just in the classroom when you're teaching, or in the classroom when you're practicing, or when they're singing. To go beyond that, you're more than just a children's director or a children's choir leader. You're there as a guide to them as well. Another topic that is really important is commitment and consistency. So not just within yourself, but also with other people. So making sure that you figure out who the kids that are committed, who they are, and working with them. You're going to find that the kids that are committed because of their parents. So parents are the ones taking them to practice. Parents are the ones that are taking them to church. Especially for us right now we don't have a bus ministry. So the parents are really key and important. So the ones that are going to be consistent and committed, just look at their parents and you'll know. If the parents are late, the kids are going to be late. If the parents don't show up to church on time, the kids aren't going to make it to practice on time. So especially, and sometimes it's disappointing. There's kids that you're going to find that really want to be involved. They want to have a solo, they want to play an instrument, but they're not able to get to practice on time because of their parents. And then just making sure that you keep communication with the parents, making sure that they're involved in the loop with what's going on. So something that we figured was easiest is to text parents when practices are. Text them. We just did that this past week. We had practice on Saturday and a lot more kids showed up, even though it's been announced during church. And parents, I don't know what it is. Sometimes they just don't hear it and they overlook it. So make sure you're keeping communication with them so they know what's going on. when you're starting your practices, always pray first. Always do that, because you're continuing on with the worship, you're continuing on with teaching them how to worship. And that music ministry is just more than them just singing. When we teach, or when the easiest route that I found, and Teacher Angela found, is go right into the song, because you only have a certain amount of, you have a time constraint, because kids can't sit there or stand there and be in practice for a long amount of time. So 20 minutes max, 30 minutes, you're pushing it, honestly, because kids, you have a wide variety of kids, like the 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, they can sit there and do it for a little bit longer, but you want to keep it fun, you want to keep it entertaining. So you go straight into the song, work on the lyrics. Once the kids get the lyrics, it's a lot easier to teach them parts or go into anything like that. Another tip is consistency and repetition are the keys to a well-developed and structured children's music ministry. So you have to be consistent. You have to set the record and keep that going. Just come up with a scheduled practice. So for Hilltop, we always have our practices at least every other Sunday. Sometimes it's every Sunday, depending on the event. So that kind of makes it easier in the sense that the kids that are showing up to church, they're being able to practice already. But we also sing every third Sunday morning. So we have a scheduled practice every Saturday before that Sunday. So keep that consistent. We have it on the church calendar. It's always announced. Everybody knows. And that also ties into the communication with the texting and making sure the parents know, even though it may be set. So making sure that you're consistent, making sure you're repeating. Also, like I said, the attention span, really keep that in mind, because kids get antsy and they don't want to stand there for a long time. It's something you have to keep in mind. Children are so receptive, they're so pure, and they naturally have the abilities to just go with the flow. So if you're going in there and going in strong, they're going to follow after you. So making sure that you're coming in prepared to teach, prepared to lead them, especially in that short amount of time that you have. I find it easier with working with the youth music team and the children's music team. It's a lot easier to teach kids because they're so receptive. So make sure that you're prepared and you're there to just go and just lead them. And be ready for change, because it's so spontaneous. Kids are spontaneous. Schedules get mixed up sometimes, so be ready to just keep going. Sometimes I think when we think of the children's music ministry, we overlook it. Like I said, we think they're just there to just sing. They're there to just stand there and look cute. But it's a ministry. I know all the time we get songs stuck in our head and it just keeps going in our head and we just think about it. So why not just influence and be able to give them good thoughts in their minds? When they're going in practice, there's a lot of times where I'll have parents come up to me, like little 3-year-olds that aren't really even supposed to be in the kids' choir, but they'll be there in practice and they'll go home singing those songs. And their parents will come back to me and be like, well, were you singing that song in Sunday school? Yeah, we were. And she's like, oh, because you were singing it on the way home or right before you went to bed. So keep that in mind, that maybe even if you think that they're not listening and they're not paying attention, if you have that 3-year-old that's in the corner and you think he's not paying attention, he is. Make sure that you know that and you keep that in mind when you're leading. Music is influential in the way that we think and the way that we act. We look at kids today, a lot of what they do, what they say comes from the media, comes from what they listen to, people that they hear on the radio. So music, it's a really big influence factor, especially in kids at a young age. You want to be able to influence them in a positive way. There are songs that they'll keep with them and remember for the rest of their lives. They'll remember singing in the kids' choir. They'll remember those songs. They'll remember those Sunday school songs. And it's a creative outlet for kids to release, because you never know what kids are coming from, where they're coming from. They're coming into these practices and they're bringing that there. So you always want to make sure that you're keeping a positive atmosphere, how I was saying before. And just teaching them how to worship. It's another way to worship. Also, just remember that because it is a ministry, a children's choir ministry is probably one of the biggest factors of bringing people in, because when the kids go home and they tell their mom, oh, I'm going to be singing on Sunday, their parents will come just to see them sing. So for me, my mom, she would never come to an Apostolic church. She just didn't do that. She was always in a Baptist church, but whenever I was singing, she was always there. She never missed a time when I was going to sing in the kids' choir, or a time when I was going to be in the recital and play, or do something. So it's a way to draw people in. Like I said, children are so sensitive and responsive, so use that for the ministry. Know that when you're teaching them, they're gonna respond and use that just to. They'll use their sensitivity will be used to be able to reach others. So kids are able to reach others in a way like no other. You think that kids are just little kids and they don't know what worship is, who God is, but you're teaching them that. So make sure you use that when they're singing and when you're leading them. That was really short and sweet, but that's all I have to say. Were there any questions? This is Victoria.
Good morning, everyone. I am from Hilltop as well, and I know that I remember a song from when I was in Sunday school too, so it really does make a difference. And however, I'm going to speak with you guys about sign language. How many of you have ever been touched by someone doing a sign ministry? Okay, good. That's more than half. I remember at a very young age, I guess I was maybe around 11, I went to some big youth conference or whatnot, and I didn't know anything about sign language, but I seen two young ladies at the conference. They did We Shall Be Holding On. And I bawled through the entire performance. I was so amazed. It moved me so much, and all I could focus on, I remember, I guess I was 11 at that time, all I could focus on was that being a desire of mine, being able to get out there and do sign language and do what they did. I wanted to be able to let God use me He used those girls to touch me at the time. I was bawling. I still remember for the day, the song was probably at least, it was a really long song. It was at least 5 or 6 minutes, and that's pretty long for a song. And from the time it started to the time it ended, I was crying. So after that, God just opened up doors for me to be able to take, sign language classes and be able to afford what knowledge I do have of it. And then from there, he just kind of opened up doors. And so that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about today, and it's going to be gearing it toward using it for children so that they could minister through it as well. I've always heard, don't worry that children never listen to you, worry that they are always watching you. So with that being said, teaching sign to children, you find, is rather easy for the most part. Because kids, they absolutely love it. It's something that not something that they just have to sit through and oh my God, I'm gonna go crazy, I need to do something with my hands or whatever. They don't have to squirm their way through a sign language class. It's very interactive, and once you find something the child loves, they are dogmatic about it. How many times have you play a song and the kids learn the song and they're singing it over and over? They only want to listen to that one song. They want to listen to their favorite part, and it's, they get dogmatic about it. It's they're very consistent creatures as far as that's concerned. So, and once you find something that they love, they will pay attention to it, and they will learn faster. They become a complete open book. You can, manipulate them. I hate to use that word, but you can get in their heart, their mind, their brain, and completely, be an instrument of God. We'll use it, on the positive side. So kids are also their hands that I like to consider which we take hold of heaven with. Like, in other words, they are little pieces of heaven, they are little gifts from God. And so with that being said, we must always open each session or lesson in prayer. It really makes a difference. Even if it's not a difference for them, it's one for me. There's been times that in my haste, I'm ready to get the class started, or I just rushing in, trying to get things set up, and come to class and I forget to, pray, and all of a sudden the kids are ready to bite each other's heads off, they're snapping at each other, they're tired. I'm like, oh, you know what? I didn't pray. Let's stop everything right now, what we're doing right here. Let's create an atmosphere of worship and, bring God back to the center of it, because he wasn't here at first. And so once I start that, I have made that a commandment. If I'm going to teach something, whatever, especially, if it's dealing with a session or anything with the kids, start it off in prayer, and it makes the difference. Since children are our most valuable resource, as a teacher, always be prepared. It's so important. And feed the children a snack, please. If you anticipate being in class at least 30 minutes or more, or even 20 minutes, feed them kids a snack. There's just absolutely no words to describe, children who are fatigued and hungry, and you're trying to teach them things. It just does not work too well at all. So get their necessities met. Pray and meet those necessities, like Sister Cyan said. You don't know where these kids are coming from. A lot of times they're coming from, parents who just want somebody to babysit the kids, even though that's not our ministry. We're not here to just babysit. But a lot of times that's in the mindset of the parent, who are actually letting their kids come without, parents being with them. Their mindset is, take my kids off my hands for a few hours, please. And so sometimes, they're not being fed properly, or are looked after, or, they're not being nurtured like they should be. So anytime that you have a child in your care, do your best to provide those necessities to them. Whether it be, there's a child that's really needy, they're, always want you, to pat their back, or whatever, be that need for that child. And then once all that is met, I find that it's a good idea to do a recap or review of our prior session to promote memorization. Usually when doing sign, it is simply just to teach the signs to a song. I don't think I've ever taught sign language to a child where they actually have to interpret or preach something. It's usually just to a song, because it's the easiest. And then in which the song is usually broke down in a line. You teach it in a line, a verse, or a chorus at a time. Depending on the speed, the students are able to learn and retain the info that's being taught to them. Of course, you can gauge how quickly the child can catch on toward the beginning of the session. And so in this case, when teaching sign, it's very, very, very important to be very exaggerated, very animated, very excited about what you do. If you don't feel like a complete idiot, you are not doing it right. Sit down and let the child teach you. Because you have to have that element of excitement, of just kind of being a little crazy and outside of your normal box. Make every sign you teach an example of something that children can relate to. For example, whenever I teach the sign for the word all is just like this. I always explain to the child, it's like you're taking your hand and you're scraping all the chocolate out of an ice cream bowl, out of the chocolate bowl or ice cream, whatever, and that's your sign for all. And that usually clicks with kids. It's like, oh yeah. And so once you set up the scene, once you give them something, a story that they can relate to regarding the word, it's so much easier for them to memorize what you are trying to teach them, and they won't likely forget it so quickly. And I normally say the line I want to teach, and then sign the phrase slowly via word by word replay. So, for example, if the song has Lord, You're Holy in it, I would, okay, kids, this is the sign of how we're going to sign for Lord. Lord is signed like this. So I would tell them, maybe it was your birthday. Maybe you got to wear a birthday sash. Does everybody know what a sash is? And kind of, show them that. And you just sign Lord, like going from the top of your sash to the bottom of your sash. I do every word like that until, it clicks. And then before you know it, they know how to do it, and they can relate to the words, and it's easy from there. While signing each word, like I said, give a relatable, something that they can memorize, tactic along with the sign as well. Then I ask the children to follow along a few times with me to see if they can do it, do the phrase with me, and then after see if they can do the phrase without me. So this tactic is usually used until the whole song is learned. And I find this works the best, especially with kids that are really small and kids that are beginners. Some of the more advanced students can normally just watch and catch on to the signs without a detailed explanation of each sign, or they've been in class before and they already know all my little anecdotes. So, and that's how I usually, just teach on. Does anybody know sign language? Okay. Oh, good. Good. Do you guys use it in your churches? Okay, a little bit. Yeah, we use it here and there for special occasions. And then also, I know as choir, when I go to choir direct, and I know as Sister Annabelle here, she does the directing for the choir directing for our kids at church, and we'll use signs to our adult choir and the kids choir to kind of help them memorize the words or tell them what's coming ahead of the song. And it's also very important. Everything kind of what Sister Ryan said, it just ties in. It's just some of the same basic things. Do things to motivate the children. Offer rewards. Give them high fives. Give them pats on the back. Find ways to make them laugh. Encourage them to bring their particular style to the table. Even I find, like, even in the most uniform settings of, I know usually we do sign teams, and in our sign teams, we want everybody to be as uniform as possible. I find even in those type of settings that the people that I've taught the sign to will still bring out their own individuality, and that's okay because they're different, And I know some people will come up and be like, oh, I like how she did that with that sign. Like, that was really nice. Or I like how she put the spin on this sign. This is no in sign language, and I don't. I kind of can be a little sassy sometimes, so I don't do no like that. I do like this, or I do no like to. It's like just another way. It's like an inflection. Like if you say I'm excited. I'm excited. It's like it's different. So in sign language, I say no like that. That means no. If I do it like this, it means like, okay, she got a little attitude or something. You know what I mean? It's just different. So there are fine ways to do the same thing differently to make things exciting. I guess is what I'm trying to get at here. So and also in reality, I think with teaching children in general, I think honestly a lot of the times we as teachers learn more from children than we think we are teaching them. I mean, they learn a lot and they're an open book and they're so truthful and so honest, but I think at the end of the day, if we're honest with ourselves, we learn so much from them. And once we open up ourselves and listen to what they have to say, we can take little nuggets from what they teach us every single day or every single time that we work with them or deal with them. And they are a joy to work with. Like I said, they are definitely little pieces of heaven and gifts from God. And I think if we remember that and remember what our responsibility responsibility as adults to instill into children that any type of ministry we have, regarding children will flourish and will be successful, and God will, lead and direct and order our steps in Him. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Because I'm out too. Everybody okay?
I didn't say okay inside.
It's okay.
Oh,
Oh, is it okay?
okay.
Yeah.
All I know is yes.
I know some deaf people, they do it really fast. They're like, okay, I'll play color. You know how you say, okay, I'll play it, okay, I'll play color. And you can barely, tell they do it so fast. Yes, sir.
Are you a state licensed interpreter with ASL?
Who, me?
Yes.
No, sir.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm working toward that, but I'm not yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the program that I've currently been involved with at my school, we do have actual deaf teachers. And I know the first week I stepped foot in class, they had an interpreter for I think 2 or 3 days, maybe the whole week, I'm not for sure. I can't remember, it was a couple years ago. But for that week, and then after that, it was just you and the deaf teacher, and you have to battle out. You have to be able to communicate with the teacher anyway, like if it involved you, acting out something like playing, what's the game called that you, yes, like you would literally have to play that with your teacher. Like she was not there because she couldn't hear. My teacher, she was a she couldn't hear, she couldn't talk, but she was very highly intelligent. And there, I hear that if you are void of one sense, then another sense is more overpowering. Like you can see better, or you can, I don't know, just your senses are better in other areas where you lack in others. But yeah, so if you had to place charades with her, you would place charades. Like there would be times I need to know what assignment I had to do, or I needed to know, what I needed to do to get a grade up, or whatever the case may be. And I had to communicate with her. And she would tell us that she would like for writing to be the last source, where we wrote it on a piece of paper. She wanted us to really communicate without having to, use the English language, I should say, since sign language is considered a completely different language. Yeah, pretty intense.
Are there different languages in sign language? Because I hear ASL. Is there another type?
Yes, sir. So every country has their own different sign language set of rules. It's not, sign language isn't universal. Correct. So if I was to go to Mexico, their sign language would be a little different.
Oh.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to interject something here. Actually, there is. Miming can be used in any language, and you know what you're doing.
Yeah, miming.
It can be used in any language because they can actually physically see what you're doing, and it's fully acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, you guys are free to go to any other session you like. What time was we supposed to end?
Does anyone here have a deaf ministry for children? For children? But you do for church though?
Ernie Murillo goes to my church. He's the national deaf.
Okay. All right, thank you guys.
Do you sign? Do you sign?
Well, when it comes to
I'm something pastor.
Oh, you sign.
but we haven't been over it.
I think it's our teaching that what happened, so get them ready for it.
Well, because she was sent from the church, but before it was my presentation.
What's that?
So I was teaching and I was just
Yes. That's why I can do that forever. If that was session, it would be.
but not.
Have you out there sign
do that, yeah. I think so, I think it's being held back.
So you have a sign ministry. Sick of the devil.
The national desk coordinator for all of UPC, his name is Ernie Moran, he goes to our church.
Oh, okay.
So we have, my own that's here today.
Oh, okay.
It's like you can do what you have, still won't know how to, like, doing something is really hard. Yeah, because I mean, you can move up.
For Sunday school? I mean,
So
for
what would you guys
for-
So, Grandma, think about it. Do you know anybody younger than us? I don't care how they were our age. I just don't want them to I'll help you maybe like once a year. Do you know anybody who's safe
Once that's
or doesn't
known,
tell anybody?
there's someone in a church who can do it, those things. You can get other people involved there. But if you started in that school.
Will you just join choir? Diamond, I need musicians.
Absolutely.
As soon as I can find them, I need musicians. That'll be the one. Because that requires effort and practice. Frank?
Yeah.
I need the core instruments first before I get trumpets or any
Yes,
wind
yes.
instruments. I need piano, guitar maybe. It's not necessarily maybe guitar and drums. I think when I was Diamond, who else? Who else? Think about it. Everybody. I'm gonna ask around.
So I have to separate.
So Sister Kelly, the Sunday, she's Sunday school.
It was
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Guitar.
Yeah, I know. My brother.
Did you guys perform at this inspiration around?
Yes.
That's where I met you.
You could just start humming.
How long ago was it?
That was the last performance that we had.
So DJ was your uncle?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, he was
I'll
awesome.
have to talk to my coworker about, and our pastor about having kids that do you know what I mean? Because that's very fun.
Pretty much like,
Yeah.
he knew everything.
So
Everybody.
And I felt a little, I felt a weakness.
Even my grandma was
I
like,
felt something from it.
If you like have dating or
it was crazy because he came
or, you know, weekly.
Yeah, he was an awesome man.
Oh, yeah.
I loved him. That was my junior camp, buddy. And the junior camp, junior hall.
over here. He was just, I don't know.
I
I
didn't understand him.
The first one I heard it, I
Because I want to be
I was
with
okay.
him.
I
I
was
wanted to
like, you know, he never like,
songs
he
with
didn't take sad
him.
about that.
And
When I went to the church, I was
Disabled or retired or whatever it's called.
I was like,
I was reminded,
I
I am now being taken care of.
I was dead. My arm was
Because I worked 41 years and I want to
because that's what we did here.
and I just want to person to go. The doors are closed right now.
Like in the church though. I think that's not what you're
Yeah.
She came with you today.
It was more of a worship service instead of the.
Oh,
Were you at church?
what was the other one?
Oh, okay. So that's,
Like,
She was in that.
so that is,
and Delano.
I feel like we want to be her.
I was just looking up for 2 days ago.
Yeah. We just
She may have
From our
gone.
sheet, I worked out with her.
that's all.
yeah,
The last one was bus ministry.
right.
I'm not sure if she changed from that room to another room, no.
Oh, okay.
She was the only daughter, you know.
Well, I just didn't know which direction to go because God has really truly blessed me.
Well, he'll tell you.
No, I mean, He's blessed me. I'm a poet,
Yeah.
and when I do poetry, it's
No,
almost
they're
like I'm
brown.
preaching.
They're a little darker.
And
you know, there's people flying up in the air, you know, they
Very
want to look and
skilled.
see
At one
what's
time,
going on.
I
That's definitely
had this hard of hearing fella, I interpreted the preaching. I'm not an interpreter.
Well, no, no,
You gotta do all that stuff.
It's even better.
I'm writing stories, you know, people being baptized. I'm a creative person. I want to make sure that I choose
That is,
it's hard too because
yeah, and I trust you have not just without in the church, but like, you know, in the community, getting there, so just as hungry.
I also work in a sound ministry, and I take care of Sunday morning.